Australia and EU agree sweeping trade deal in face of global uncertainty. Australia and the European Union have agreed a sweeping free trade deal after 8 years of negotiations. The deal, worth about 10 billion Australian dollar, $7 billion, £5.2 billion, was signed on Tuesday, with Australia's Prime Minister and the head of the European Commission describing it as a mutual win-win. As well as removing almost all tariffs on trade, the two have also agreed to increase cooperations on defense and critical minerals. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the deals as having a focus on collective resilience in the world that is deeply changing. A world where great powers are using tariffs as leverage and supply chain as vulnerabilities to be exploited in our story, she said. A note to US President Donald Trump's use of tariffs, as well as China's control of a critical minerals market. She added that trust matters more than transactions, noting Australia and the EU had a unique relationship that was built for the long term. What's in the deal? Beef, wine, and defense. Under the deal, almost all EU tariffs will be lifted on Australian agriculture products, such as wine, fruits and vegetables, olive oil, seafood, most dairy products, and wheat and barley. This will mean a saving about 37 million Australian dollar for local wine producers and exporters, the government said. For Australian consumers, the deal will mean cheaper European wine, spread, biscuit, chocolate, and pasta. The deal means Italian-style sparkling wine made in Australia can still be sold as Prosecco domestically, though the name will be phased out over 10 years for exporters. Australian producers can also continue to use names including Parmesan through Peta, will be subject to grandfathering and lengthy phase-out periods. The issue of the food naming rights is sensitive in both Europe and Australia is now the only country outside of Italy to have secured EU permissions to use the name Prosecco. Referring to the matter, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese noted the country's modern history was built on migrants. That's why whether it's Greeks coming here and creating feta, or Italians coming and doing parmesan, or people from Eastern Europe doing Kransky sausages, it's a connection with Europe. A trade agreement was a perfect balance, von der Leyen said, as it will be easier for Australians to export to EU, whilst more EU-made goods will be available in Australia. But Andrew McDonald from Meat and Livestock Australia said, the deal on meat export was not a fair outcome for Australian farmers, who had wanted an annual quota of at least 50,000 tonnes. The deal allows for about 30,000 tonnes, up from 3,389. This is unquestionably a missed opportunity for Australia's red meat producers, processors, and exporters, he said. The new security and defence partnership will see greater cooperation in the defence industry, counter-terrorism, space and maritime security. Von der Leyen also announced greater cooperation on several critical minerals projects between Australia and the EU, including lithium and tungsten.